The most intolerable people are provincial celebrities. Check off.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there, Thomas. Oh, hi, Theo. Welcome.
Oh, hey.
We should do Bitcoin Talk Show. It's 3 p.m. here on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And
Why not?
it's Wednesday, so let's do it. There's a lot of stuff
Right.
going on in the world of Bitcoin. Of course, you, the listener, can join in and take control of the show by calling in. 1-708-23-COIN is our call-in line. You can also tweet at BTC Talk or Skype BitcoinTalkShow. We want to hear from you. So stories that we've got ready for you include PayPal's support is the best thing that could happen to Bitcoin, that from Wired.com. Plus, the FBI lied about how it obtained Silk Road server location, says security expert at ibtimes.co.uk. The PayPal video that sparked all the rumors about the potential Bitcoin plans through Braintree, will unpack that business. Plus, this is important to not just Bitcoiners, but all internet users. The Net Neutrality Day of Action, as different websites across the internet are putting up banners that are slowing down their website intentionally to raise awareness about net neutrality. So all that, plus your calls, Skype us, Bitcoin Talk Show, dial in 1-708-23-COINS, or tweet at BTC Talk. You can also submit questions and answers, or questions which we can answer here via YouTube. So without further ado, what's on your mind, guys? What's going on in your world, Thomas and Theo?
Well, we can't go much further without acknowledging the price. The price of Bitcoin is $484 after hitting a peak of $492. It seems like it's been on an uptrend the last 2 or 3 days since hitting a low of $456. Not sure how long this uptrend is going to last, but right now we do seem to be in a relative uptrend. So.
Yeah, we need to. What we need to do, or what Bitcoin has to go back to 505 in order to be in a bullish trend. So there was a support reached at about 460. You can make a little scoop line on your chart if you want, and it was kind of retested. So there, yeah, that one, and then another, and it kind of got retested, and then, yeah, there you go. So is that a day? Put it on 1 day. Yeah, there you go. So you can see that was kind of like the support line, and the thing is, if that is significantly broken, in my crystal ball of chartism, I would say that it would go down to 420. So if let's say we got one of those day candles, so what you have right now, and it's well below 460, then I think it could go down to up to 420. But if it goes, right now it has to go up to about 505, or you're doing some artwork, about 505, and then it's in this kind of upward movement again.
It keeps adding lines. I'm not sure what it's trying to do anymore.
Yeah, well, you're on line mode. I drew a chart, but I was trying to find it, but I have to. Damn it! I'll find it in just a second. Hold on, and I'll show you. Actually, a friend of mine drew it, so I'm kind of borrowing his analysis a little bit. I want to be.
Do you have a history in charting?
I mean, I'm not an expert, but I do it a little bit. But you have to, just like everything else, you have to use it with a grain of salt, because otherwise you can't, as long as you know that you can't predict the future 400% by looking at charts, then you're fine. You know.
Here's also a graphic from an earlier show. Theo predicted that flying vending machines are coming. So I put this together.
Someone was talking about that today.
We were talking about it in Chris Before Coffee.
Exactly.
Flying vending machines.
Exactly. So some of my predictions are not always that far off. I mean, I was talking about, the NSA reading our brainwaves with our webcams and stuff like that too. I think they're doing it. I just think they're not that good at it yet. Okay, wait. Here we go. Here's my chart. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so this is I'm going to zoom in a little. This is Bitstamp, and This is the falling trend line, this red one. Just a second, okay? What happens is when I start talking online, then everyone wants to have a lot of attention, which is understandable. But so anyway, that's the falling trend line, and then see this? It has to break through this red dotted line. That's that. It would be about 500, what I'm talking about, and then it should go back up to the moon right there. And this is what I was talking about. See this blue line right here? That's 460, and if it really breaks that, it could go all the way down to this other blue line. So, yeah, we could talk about what all this other stuff means, but I think it's not that.
Where's the other blue line? Where's the bottom?
See right here? Right here where I am. 430, 420, right here. I think that he made that with the Fibonacci, but I have to go back and do it myself. That's where he got that. I don't know if you know what. Are you guys familiar with the Fibonacci concept?
It's like a spiral, like a.
Exactly, it's a spiral, and what's interesting is it's used a lot in chart stuff, but it finds itself in nature too. So it's like, I don't know it by heart. It's like 50%, or no, it's like 20%, 50%, and then 70%, or I don't know. There you go. See how it like multiplies? So what you can do on the charts is use that to create things called retractment lines. So that's where there should be buying or selling resistance. That's what those levels are. Like just by chance it's at 460. I mean, it could be a psychological level because that's, I don't know, an even number, 460, not 461. But in what you do is you measure a significant high with a significant low, and between them, it's kind of like how the spiral is. And it's going to make these lines, and you see this in nature a lot. And I think that's interesting because a lot of the other little squiggly lines you see on the charts, they're based on moving averages, or they're based on an RSI. It's called a relative strength indicator. So they're all based on price, basically. Yeah, and the Fibonacci is just based on these percent levels that find themselves in nature a lot.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that, Theo. And I assume we're going to talk more about price as the show progresses and the price changes. We'll see which direction it's headed. What did you make of the news from PayPal's support? It's the best thing that could happen to Bitcoin, says Marcus Wilson over at Wired.com. A lot of people are sharing that sentiment. It's been something that I've been hoping for a long time. For those who aren't familiar, PayPal sent out a tweet that had a link to a YouTube video earlier in the week, and that YouTube video reference, we should probably play it if one of you has the link handy. It had a bunch of faces sifting through and all reading the same script, and I'll be glad to play it from my screen here. Oh, I guess we can't play it, Thomas. You might be afraid of our video being flagged. But they talked about I can buy things with Bitcoin with just a click, and it was a PayPal video, so that made me say, wait, wait a minute, I can't buy anything on PayPal with Bitcoin. What are they talking about? So then people said, there's some rumor that they're going to integrate Bitcoin somehow, and then I found out that one of their subsidiary companies, one of the things that they own is Braintree, a company that owns other companies, and that company owns things like Uber and Airbnb, and so they might be able to process Bitcoin payments, which would be really cool because they're like the innovators in the digital payment space. People who use Uber and Airbnb probably all have smartphones and are familiar with using PayPal, digital payments, and so adding Bitcoin will be a no-brainer for them.
And in the Braintree demonstration the next day at TechCrunch Disrupt, which was live on the internet, PayPal demonstrated that their app would have NFC. So basically what Apple demonstrated the next day with the credit card companies and near-field communication, waving your device over another device to send information to it, PayPal can do the same thing with Bitcoin. So this is a great time for PayPal to join up. Apple is clearly moving into their space with the Apple Wallet, which will have a copy of your credit card. It's a really impressive system that actually tokenizes your credit card. It makes the credit cards able to compete with Bitcoin. Under the Apple system, Apple doesn't have access to your credit card. It's encrypted. They create a token access of it, send the token once. After the token's used, it goes away. They have to create a new token if they want to create a new payment. This is the complete opposite of how the credit card system actually works. So they've created a new system to really help it compete with Bitcoin, but at the same time it just brings up the same old points. You could have a system with Apple in the middle taking a cut, all the credit card companies taking a cut, the banks taking a cut, or you could have this new system with Bitcoin where the miners get a small cut and that's it. It's a completely new system, but they're now in direct competition. They're advertising against the credit card, they're advertising against the wallet, they're advertising in favor of paying with your phone, which anybody here in Bitcoin, they've been paying in their phone for years. So it's not new, but it's great to have these allies now.
Yeah, that is funny to emphasize for people like us who have been talking on these shows for years of like, you mean you can spend money from your phone? Like, wow, this is new. It's like we should. I forget to continue to be excited about that, not to mock people for whom that is new, because it's going to take a little while with adoption and people hearing about this.
I wish I could pull up the video from yesterday. Apple had an actual commercial, like $1 million produced proper commercial, where they showed the person getting their card out and sliding it through, and it's so much work, it's so hard. And this commercial, all we have to do is just get a copy of it, chop the end off, put the end of the PayPal commercial on here, and boom, it's a BitPay commercial. It's a Bitcoin commercial. They've entered into our arena. Obviously Apple's the big advantage. They got the big marketing. They make incredible hardware, great products. But at the same time, they're now in direct competition with Bitcoin. And remember, Apple is the smart one here. The credit card companies are the music industry. The credit card companies have just given their control over to Apple the same way the music industry gave their control over to Apple. And remember how that worked out. The artists are the ones with something to sell. The music industry are the middleman with nothing but promotion. And they're the ones now desperate for money. The credit card companies are going to Apple, and they are giving in to Apple. Apple gets a cut on all their payments with this new system. And remember, all Apple has to do is add one Bitcoin wallet to the iWallet system, and this is a new game. Now they've just installed all those NFC readers for us. They've just promoted the death of the credit card, the end of the wallet, don't carry a purse anymore. That's all for Bitcoin now. All it is, oh, well, you're in a new system now, and there's new competitors that they've just opened themselves up to. It's futurism. They have to do it. It's the future. Obviously, tokenized credit cards are much better than normal credit cards, but still, they've opened themselves up for real competition from Bitcoin.
About the NFC payments, are you telling me that the idea is similar to, I guess NFC for anything else, where you can just swipe your phone past another phone instead of, actually taking a picture of the QR code?
Yeah, it's similar. I think the Androids have had this for a while. They have a program called Bump where you could send your credit card or your business card from one phone to another. Yeah. It's like that. There's a little chip in there. There's a chip in there. They talk to each other when they're close to each other. It's an automatic type thing.
Yeah, the thing is, like with a Bitcoin wallet, I wouldn't want to be able to accidentally swipe past someone's 7-Eleven payment, for example, and then, either...
I know the Apple system requires you to have your thumb on there with the whole thumbprint reading thing. I imagine
that's kind of freaky.
You'd have to log into your wallet first or something, put a PIN code in before it launches, that kind of thing.
I mean, that whole fingerprint thing is kind of freaky to me.
Why?
I'm sure they're well, I don't know. I'm just speaking from a conspiracy point of view.
Are you from
collecting?
800? Why do you care about fingerprints?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, they're probably just collecting all my fingerprints without my permission, and
yes, they are.
And figuring out what I'm.
They claim it's the same as the credit card, where they're taking one secure picture of your fingerprint, putting it in a secure vault. Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Totally centralized, and no one will get it, just like nobody got the naked pictures from iCloud.
Well, I think they claim that the fingerprint stays on the phone, whereas iCloud, they're actually 100%. Like Steve Jobs pretty much described that in his video, like your photos will be transferred automatically.
Yeah.
automatically. He said dozen
Yeah.
of times.
I think. Yeah. Okay, that sounds pretty interesting. I guess it's just kind of.
iCloud worked there. iCloud
What
worked.
about I'm just thinking of worst cases. I mean, the best thing is basically what you said. Basically, they're training everybody how to use their phones to pay, and getting everyone used to it. So when I used to show people like, oh, just download this app, and now it's going to be, oh, that's normal, you know. So that's the good part, like what you were saying. Now it's going to be totally
And
acceptable.
we should accept that as a good thing. When someone says,
Yeah,
"Oh, Bitcoin, it's like Apple Wallet," and you could be like
yeah,
Apple Pay or whatever they call it. And be like,
yeah.
yeah, it is. It is like Apple Wallet. And
Right, exactly.
just take it.
So
Doesn't
if you
matter.
see that they have an app, you see that they have an iPhone, then you can just be like, okay, well, do you have Apple Wallet? And be like, yeah, okay, well, it's really similar, except it's just better. You know,
There's
And
no middleman. There's no,
right,
and people get it. People get the MP3 thing. They know the
yeah,
difference between buying your music from an artist, buying your music from a giant music conglomerate. Like we know the difference. We've been through this once before. We're going to go through it again. And they're not going to win. That's what's just so neat. They've built all this commercials, all this like
mm,
brand loyalty, and you got to have the Apple Pay. You got to get the new phone, and all these Android people feel left out. They can't pay with their phones. They can pay with their phones. They can use
maybe we
Bitcoin.
could maybe we could just plagiarize one of the if they make a video, so we just can, they've got the YouTube video, and it's like this is how you use Apple Wallet, and then you just replace some of the words with Bitcoin or like key or
It's
take out
not
the credit
plagiarism. It would
card.
be parody. We can
Okay,
parody the
parody. So
satire.
parody.
We can
Excuse me.
absolutely, legally,
Yeah.
100%, and we probably
Right.
will. But yeah, we'll do that.
That'll
Right?
be totally. We just have to keep our eyes out for that. I mean, they're probably. Yeah, I think I'm sure they've got Bitcoin on the radar, and it's probably even easier for them to integrate it now that this is already launched. Maybe they just didn't want to do a double. We don't know what they're thinking, but let's say they are thinking, okay, we want to do Bitcoin, but we're just not sure. They probably just want to get the wallet out there, train everyone how to use it, and then slowly decide later if they really want to do crypto or not in their official Apple Wallet.
A lot of the speculation yesterday from TWIT, Twit, This Week in Tech, they were saying that Apple could be their own bank. So this is the same thing with the music, where it started out, Apple made all these deals with the music industry, the labels, right? Just like the
Mm-hmm.
credit cards, American Express, whatever business labels there were. And then now that the system develops, like maybe 2 or 3 years from now, they create their own system. They say, hey, you could just pay with Apple directly. You don't need a credit card. You don't need a bank. You just pay with Apple. And then suddenly the bankers realize what they've done. They've taken their credit cards, which used to be unique and valuable, very difficult to replicate, little plastic strips everywhere, and they've given that over to Apple, who is really easily replicatable by PayPal, Bitcoin, the Android platform. All of these things are now open competitors to them. So it's a risky move. I don't think they're going to win. I mean, they obviously, maybe they have no choice. Maybe the technology is coming up
Yeah.
on them anyway. If they don't do it, they'll be the only credit cards that aren't digital. Some kind of, there's calculations to be made there, but they're coming out into our sphere.
Yeah.
Well,
But Apple has headphones.
Yes.
Sorry.
As an average user of Bitcoin, I'm just excited that this means I'll be able to use Bitcoin to pay for Airbnb or Uber trips. This is good all around, not just as an announcement that PayPal is integrating, but also that we users get an immediate benefit from it.
Hmm. So Uber doesn't accept Bitcoin directly right now, do they?
No, I don't. It's my
Yeah.
understanding that they
Well,
don't.
yeah.
But let me double
So
check. They might.
so here is something real interesting with Uber, because I think that Uber, and what is the competitor? I forgot their name. That's like Uber.
I think the competitor accepts Bitcoin, so it's really disappointing that we've forgotten
Yeah,
their
but
name.
what is the name of the competitor? I just want to mention them. I forgot their name.
Zipcar? I don't know. There's a
I
lot.
don't know. Anyway, to make a long story short, I think these decentral
But
the way that those companies are taking the whole taxi thing and this kind of like decentral rideshare and all that kind of stuff is a similar idea with the whole decentral thing. You know what I mean? It's just and so what happened here in Germany is that Uber is here, and of course, it just was a matter of time. The taxi companies, or the taxi lobby, or whatever organization, I forgot. I think it's like organization of taxi, took them to court and said, okay, you guys, you're not following the rules. You don't have your drivers don't have the right licenses, and the cars don't have the right standards. Because you have to have A, B, C, D, E, F in order to be licensed, and in the meantime, I found out that it's really crazy. So a license to be a taxi driver is really expensive. It's like $20,000 or something. I don't know what. I don't know why.
Well,
Anyway,
taxi driving became like a protected industry
yeah,
where you have to be in the club, you have to get, I know in New York City they say you have to have a medallion, a license. There's only a
right,
certain number of licenses in New York City. There's a
exactly.
controlled system. And Lyft is the competitor by the LYFT, and they do kind of accept Bitcoin through Gift. So GYFT, you can get a LYFT on there. Everyone's not spelling anything properly anymore. But
Right,
yeah, they're definitely going to compete with the taxi drivers because the taxi drivers didn't come up with this technological system. There's a
right,
superior system that makes ride sharing, and Uber is even more of like a fancy ride sharing. Lyft seems to be advertising more like a friend sharing, and Uber is
hmm
more like a professional car service. It
right.
feels to me. So,
So basically, there's already has been for about 2 years an app, and all you do is you're cutting it with the app. The taxi drivers that are licensed can register with the app company, and then you can be like your own taxi central. So then the taxi drivers are no longer, already right now, and it's totally legal. They're not any longer having to use those same central things as they used to. So all the taxi drivers that have that app now, it's the legal one, not Uber, a different one, can do that. So people are already really used to booking their taxis with a mobile phone anyway here. So anyway, Uber, the court decision, of course, was negative, and it was in the favor of uh, the organization of the taxi drivers, or whatever they're called. But Uber was like, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. No, I'm not joking. They sent out an SMS to everybody on their list or whatever and said, this doesn't affect you. We are the ones that are going to be fined under the ruling. And we're not going to be fined until they prove that we're really doing something wrong. So just keep on going. And they did all these tests on the radio now, and they're like, we were able to go from this city to this city using Uber. We were able to do it. It's an amazing story, and all the newspapers are covering it. So it's like the greatest publicity stunt for Uber. And basically, I think that they have to pay if someone proves that they didn't do all those things I said, that they're letting people, organizing that a non-licensed taxi driver and the car is not right and all that, they have to pay like 250,000 euros per incident. But I think they're just saying, we don't care. We don't even care if we make money. We just want to get this thing out there. So they have enough money to just, push it. It's too bad. It's a real interesting tactic in my opinion, and I'm really interested to see what happens. I just think it's related to Bitcoin because it's a similar style about you taking over, taking the
it's a
power.
decentralized taxi service, and that's why
Exactly,
it can't be
exactly.
stopped. Like all they have to do is put up this service that allows you to trade rides essentially, and boom, it's a taxi service, and the taxi companies don't understand what happened to their business. They've had
Yeah,
business
but
for like 100 years now, being taxi cab drivers, and it's over.
I think
It's
it's
so
interesting how it's a disruptive technology similar to Bitcoin that these old world markets don't know how to respond. Like the same way we saw banks freaking out about Bitcoin, we're now seeing taxi cab services freaking out over a decentralized taxi cab service. Well, as the world becomes, as technology is changing and things are becoming more decentralized, individuals are becoming more empowered and relying less on centralized organizations. Yeah, the old guard is going to get disrupted. They're going to be upset about it. I think it
right.
should be a lesson for us, though, going forward, not to depend on protectionism from governments. That's typically the failures that these people are facing. They're like, we're not making any money because they don't fit with your old world system, and we want you to force them back into your old world system because we jump through the hoops. Now make them jump through the hoops. And it's like, hey, man, The hoops aren't even there anymore. Just forget about it. They're done. We've moved on.
It shouldn't even be so much protectionism as just trying to provide a soft landing. Like times are changing, the technology is changing. We should try to help these taxi cabbers transition into Uber or re-educate themselves and find new work. Like we need to be realistic about this. There's help we can provide them, but protectionism isn't going to work. This obviously Uber even changing the laws isn't going to work because they're just going to continue operating. And it's science fiction. This is the future, and it reminds me a lot of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where you could just stick out your thumb, but your thumb was actually a hitchhiking device that would bring in passing spaceships. And this is the same thing where if they don't like Uber, wait till they see what Google does with the self-driving cars. Because I can tell you already from a science fiction standpoint, when you have a self-driving car, you just order one up on your phone. It doesn't need a driver. It just comes to the curb, picks you up, you get in, you go to the 52nd Street, you get out, it goes somewhere else, somebody else gets in. You don't have to own a car anymore. It really is, and we're close on that. They have it working in prototypes. So.
Wow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. That everyone should just look at that for that people shouldn't get so worried about regulations and just but you have to actually do stuff. You have to use it. We have to build an economy and stuff like that. And as long as we're doing that, then no one can stop us, basically.
Well, wait a minute, Theo. Some people have to worry about regulations. What about Ross Ulbricht?
Yeah, I don't mean. Okay, that's not what I mean. Of course, you have to worry about regulations. I just mean, yeah, and maybe you have to use a dark wallet or whatever. But I'm just saying, don't let regulations stop you. You know what I mean? If Uber said, "Oh, it's illegal," okay, we'll just leave, and until the law is okay, then we'll come back.
So don't let regulations stop you. Let the jail cell stop you.
Yeah, that's. I don't mean don't use tactic. You know what I mean? I don't mean just because it's illegal to drive on the left side that you should just do it anyway. You know what I mean? Of course not. But I just mean that it's an example of people doing things despite regulation. Of course. Like I said, they have enough money to do it. So
yeah, before that, it's just a strategy thing. Not everyone can.
That's true.
Disobey. Uber is in a unique situation. I was thrilled to announce that Uber was telling their drivers to keep on driving, despite the announcement. That's the right move, and not everyone can be courageous like that. And I'm sure I'm sure they lost some drivers. Didn't anyone switch over?
I have no idea. I have no idea for sure, but I mean, it seems, well, I don't know. I think now my perspective right now is that more people than ever have heard of it because the case got a lot of coverage, and there's been so many little news. I just saw a little newspaper around here, a little local one. They were like, "We did a test on Uber to see if it works." It's kind of like this little thing that's not allowed. That's really cool to do, and it's a great story. And they're like, "Yeah, we did it."
It's kind of like a speakeasy during Prohibition, just openly saying, we're going to keep being open for business. You can keep on trying to shut us down, but we're going to stay open.
And I've seen this technology used in San Francisco where they have a lot of drivers and they have a lot of passengers, and it's incredible. I was talking to a girl on the street, and she pulls up her phone. She's like, I got to go to dinner at my next place. She punches in a couple of things, and 5 minutes later, she's like, oh, there's a car for me across the street. And she went, and her car was perfectly safe. It's a trusted driver, which could be an issue. Obviously, in the past, we need to check people's credentials. And she got to her next destination, and the car went wherever it went, and that was that. This technology is incredible and unstoppable, really.
San Francisco, you say?
San Francisco, right there on the street. And it really did kind of remind me of the Hitchhiker's Guide. She was doing a little thing on her phone, and we were just talking, and 5 minutes later, her ride was there. It was great. It was fantastic from a customer service perspective and everything. And it's been flashing up on my screen here, so I just want to compare their websites while we get a chance. Uber has a black and white photography website giving you a classy feeling. This is the Uber system. And Lyft, Lyft, has a Your Friend with a Car website. So it is kind of an interesting comparison between the two services. They basically seem to be about the same service to me. Maybe there's a price difference between Lyft.
No, of course not, because CEO, big shot, wants to take a professional car that's not my friend, and other people who are like, I want to go to the grocery store and I don't want a limousine. They want their friend to pick them up. So there's like
I think Uber entirely black cars too. I'm not sure. They seem to have a classier type feeling to it. Might be 100% black. I'm not sure, car-wise.
Okay. Well, you brought up you brought up, what was it? San Francisco Library, or San Francisco, and I was just thinking to myself, it was Ross Ulbricht was picked up at the San Francisco Library when he was arrested, and there was another announcement about him this week. If I'm not changing gears too quickly on you, we can go back to Gift if anyone has or Lyft and Uber if anyone has some calls or questions about it in the chat. But this was important. This caught my attention. Headline: FBI lied about how it obtained Silk Road server locate, says security expert. This from David Gilbert at International Business Times. He writes, a security expert claims the FBI is lying about how it located the Icelandic server hosting the Silk Road Underground drug bazaar. When Ross Ulbricht was arrested by the FBI and charged with being the operator of the billion-dollar drugs empire known as Silk Road, one of the most intriguing questions for many was just how the law enforcement agency was able to locate the server hosting the website, considering it was running from the anonymous Tor network. Conspiracy theories multiplied, with many suggesting the FBI was informed about the server's location by the NSA after the spying agency cracked the encryption of the anonymity network, which millions rely on daily to communicate securely and avoid being tracked online. So what did you guys think about that? I'll stop there. When you initially heard that the Silk Road had been taken down, that law enforcers had somehow made a copy of their server, I know that we speculated on this show about how was this done. Christoph Atlas, a security expert who hosts a show on the World Crypto Network called Dark News, gave his best estimates, but I don't remember what they were at the time. Did you guys remember our possible explanations of how they could have...
I don't know. I don't remember what anyone said technically, but my guess was basically what you said, that they just did it with the force of government. They just said, hey, we're the NSA, Iceland, whatever company, just give us that, or just do something illegal and give us the information because we're tired of this shit. And it sounds like I don't want to say that I'm a tech expert or anything, but was described in one article about how they say they did it. Sounds like something called SQL injection. So they said something like they were using a field in the website to, I don't know if it was a CAPTCHA or you put your email address, and they were putting a bunch of random numbers in there, like bullshit, and somehow analyzing the reaction of the website, and then one of the IPs that they got like spit back was this Icelandic one or something similar to that.
Yes.
So that's what was described. That sounds like really easy or totally anyone can do, but I think that they just hacked the hell out of it and found some little breadcrumb and it's probably totally illegal what they did, but they're just trying to make it sound like, oh yeah, we just typed in the contact form a whole bunch and then suddenly we've got crazy. It took we had to pay our intern. The intern worked for 1 month typing. He got the right IP address. I'm sure they did something illegal. I mean, I'm not technical enough to really say what, but maybe it'll come out in the case. Maybe they're just doing this press release to kind of, sway public opinion a little bit.
Well, it seems to me if they were able to do something that no one else could do and no one can explain how, why would they reveal that? That's like a magician telling you how they do their magic trick, right? They're the NSA, they're the FBI, they're supposed to have all the backdoor secrets, and they're supposed to keep them from you. They don't publish like, oh, well, and here's how we did it. That, to me, is highly suspect.
Well, that's part of the problem with the explanation they've given us. If they did type in random numbers, it should be really easy for us to replicate it. We should be able to do this with our own copy of the server, our own copy of the server software. I mean, not myself, but someone more technical than me. And they should, if it's SQL injection, like Theo says, that's a very common attack. That should, that seems fine, but they should say it's SQL injection. We have some smart people; they can look that up. If it's random characters typed in, like they're saying, it's replicatable. But without the information to replicate it, it seems like a red herring.
Well, let me read from the article exactly what they did. So, according to the International Business Times, on Friday, the FBI presented its answer in an affidavit filed with the court in New York, where Ulbricht is due to stand trial on counts including trafficking in narcotics, a new charge added last week, money laundering conspiracy, and a kingpin charge, which is typically laid against the heads of drug cartels and mafia organizations. In the 58-page response to the defense's motion to suppress evidence, the FBI said that it used a misconfiguration in the Silk Road login page to reveal the Internet protocol, or IP address, of the server. Christopher Tarbell, the FBI agent leading the investigation, who has since left the agency, said the revelation of the IP address did not necessitate accessing any administrative systems or backdoor, but simply involved typing miscellaneous entries into the username, password, and CAPTCHA fields on the website's login page. He saw the server send back data to Tarbell's computer, which he said contains information to identify the server. Quote, "Upon examining the individual packets of data being sent back from the website, we noticed that the headers of some of the packets reflected a certain IP address not associated with any known Tor node as the source of the packets. This IP address was the only non-Tor source IP address reflected in the traffic we examined." So that gives us part of the secret. It actually sounds pretty reasonable. That's something that you could do.
Yeah. It sounds. That's what Thomas was saying. It sounds reasonable, and it doesn't sound that hard. Like something totally crazy. But hey, we don't know. I mean,
well, the FBI said there were no illegal spying methods used in the capture of the server.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't even think that I think people that even think Silk Road was bad probably don't even believe that. I mean, come on, they know how.
Well, I think they have to be a little bit careful in this case because they really want to prosecute Ross Ulbricht. They want to win this case, and they want to make sure that all of their evidence is admissible in court.
Yeah.
The defense try and suppress all evidence.
Do you see? The article continues, and the article has a posting from what looks like a Silk Road Reddit site, and now. I mean, I didn't know about this. March 2013, someone posted on the Silk Road Reddit website that he could see the IP address. This seems like a really big red flag to me. I don't know what other errors the Silk Road has had, but it says that the FBI notes that Ulbricht himself logged these two incidents in a diary he kept of Silk Road activity. It seems if the Silk Road IP was even accidentally exposed, you think he should have run. I don't. How much does it take to run? This seems like this guy here seems to say back in March. His name's now deleted. Good work there. But that including the public IP address was there, and so that this guy had it. Why wouldn't the FBI have it? This is pretty shocking.
Wow.
So,
Thomas, I had no idea. So the Silk Road's actual IP address, I mean, you can only access it through the Onion router, right? You have to .onion website. So
this guy could access it directly. He's got the IP.
So if you have the IP address of a website that's hosted on a Tor server, you don't need a .onion website. You can just type in the numbers. And
well, more importantly, like Theo said, it does come down to brute force. Once the FBI had the IP, they went to the data center in Reykjavik, Iceland, and not through any kind of technical means. They just went in with force and said, hey, we're the FBI. We have the right to see what's going on this server. And the laws of Iceland actually say that authorities do have the right to look at the server, et cetera, so it's perfectly legal. So then they're in the server, then it's totally over. Then they.
Oh, no. That's horrible. I knew that Iceland was great about protecting information and they'll let anything stay on their servers there, but I didn't know that they also would let any authorities just violate the property rights of any
I
owner.
don't know. I don't know if they had to have some kind of warrant, or I don't know if there's like an international warrant. I
It
have no
doesn't matter
idea.
what
But
they had. I mean, it
yeah,
comes
well, about the legal point of view, I agree. I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I'm just
yeah.
saying, as far as like the legal part, maybe it's a maybe then the best chance is what you talked about this whole jury nullification thing, and about getting that out in the public about how that works, and just about the case, just about the case in the sense that I forgot that really good article that did research that showed that Silk Road reduced violence, and these kind of really good articles that seem to be really well written. That needs to really be put out there a lot, so this thing isn't just like mystified. I mean, I visited
Really
my
is
parent.
up to a jury of 12. I mean, it's not. We can talk to the general public about how much good the Silk Road did to reduce violence, bring the quality of drugs up while keeping people safe, but it's ultimately just going to come down to 12 individuals, right?
I agree, but I don't know if there's a reason for them to nullify their jury duty when they're on duty if they don't understand the case. That's all I meant. You know what I mean? So, and I don't. I guess you have to like kind of guess the neighborhoods that they're trying to select jury from and flyer bomb them. I don't know. I don't know what the. I have no idea how else you would do it or what the.
Well, you
You
can't do
know.
that because that's illegal.
Oh, okay.
That's
Jury tampering.
yeah, that's considered jury tampering. So you can't.
Yeah, but I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I would just guess.
Right. So if you're going to do something like that, because people do it,
Hmm.
you have to have plausible deniability. So you have to be able to approach everyone in a neighborhood, not just like people who you suspect might be on the jury, or you can hand out information in a courthouse, but not ask like, "Hey, are you on the jury? Then this is for you." It has to be like given out to everyone, so that you have some sort of plausible deniability that you're not just doing outreach to affect a jury. But obviously, if you're trying to talk about jury nullification, you are trying to reach a jury and get the message across that peaceful people don't belong in cages, and if your conscience says that Ross should be free, then who cares what the law says? Set him free.
That is the basis of jury nullification. And I did find the part in the government's report where they say why they were able to search the Silk Road websites once they had located it in Iceland. The government says, in any event, whatever expectation of privacy Olbrecht had in the Silk Road server was plainly outweighed by the government's legitimate need to search its contents. The government had ample evidence, easily enough to establish probable cause, that the Silk Road server was hosting the Silk Road website, adding, under the circumstances, searching the server was more than reasonable. It was a law enforcement imperative that would have been gross dereliction of duty for the government not to pursue. So, once they had the IP, they had to search the server, they had to go to Iceland, and they took care of it. And that's where they go from there.
We got freeross.org up on the screen now. You can learn more about the person about whom we're speaking, the alleged admin of the Silk Road website, Ross Ulbricht, who you can learn a lot about him here. You can also donate in Bitcoin. Should have a QR code up on the screen here. And oh look, looks like Roger Ver challenges you. $160,000 pledged by Roger Ver at $20,000 a month. He challenges you to get him to pay faster. I don't know anything about this. Do you guys know about this? No. Roger Ver has paid $50,000 on a $160,000 pledge in response to overwhelming Twitter support for Ross Ulbricht. Oh yeah, I do remember this. That was amazing. And wow, so he's given quite a lot of money. You can help by sending the bitcoins that you've got to this. Oh, look, they've got a fancy vanity address. 1Ross5. Here it is on your screen.
I can't see it on my screen. Oh no, now I see it. Okay. No, I see it.
Okay, very good.
Cool.
So that is it. That's it for Ross. He stays in my heart. I'm concerned about him. Obviously, he can't write very much while he's in jail. He could write, but anything that he's going to write, they're going to read. So he has no privacy communicating with the outside world, and that's difficult. Hey, there's another guy I should mention. His right-hand man, allegedly, Inigo, the other admin of the Silk Road website, and one who receives far less media attention. His name is Andrew Jones, and he, like me, is a participant in the Free State Project. He was a signer of the Free State Project, had plans to move to New Hampshire, visited Keene specifically in December of 2012, before being arrested in December of 2013. And his girlfriend helped set up this website. He was charged with many of the same crimes as his friend Ross, but obviously he's pleading not guilty, and he has quite a lot of lawyers' fees. His family bailed him out. He's not in jail currently. He's under house arrest. His parents were able to bail him on $1 million bail, which they were able to raise by mortgaging their house and putting up their entire retirements. So you can help support Andrew Jones by sending Bitcoin to that address on your screen.
Someone asked on the, I got a Twitter question, hold on. Did the Silk Road make money on each transaction? I think so, but I'm not sure. Do you know?
I was trying to Google that. I'm not sure.
I don't know. But if we have more Silk Road questions, FBI questions, security questions, we can answer those as they come. But I want to move along to another important story. What are Netflix, Tumblr, and others doing for today's net neutrality protest? The internet slowdown is loading.
Slow down.
Loading. So, this from TheVerge.com, where 80 Robertson writes, "Are you planning on watching some movies tonight on Netflix, or posting a photo to Tumblr, or backing a crowdfunding project? You're going to see a lot of spinning wheels as fall elections heat up, and the FCC prepares to close the public comment period on its open internet proposal. A cluster of major sites and a number of more minor ones are urging visitors to contact Congress and the FCC and express support for reclassifying broadband internet under the common carrier rules that govern phone service and other utilities." This isn't the only net neutrality related proposal on the table, but it's the one that could successfully block internet service providers from providing, quote, fast lanes to sites that pay more, something FCC Chair Tom Wheeler has considered allowing within commercially reasonable bounds. Well, that's not concerning to anybody, is it? That the government's going to take over an entire industry of information, sending
Crazy.
information across the internet, and then granting special favors of sending information across the pipes faster to those who pay the largest bribes. I mean, this is insane. And not what people want governments for. Not what I want governments for. Not to help slow down the internet and help the I don't know. Like, what would this really mean? What would this affect? How would this affect our lives? Wouldn't people like Netflix, wouldn't they be exempt? Isn't Tumblr, aren't they all big enough that they could just pay off the FCC and get the fast lane thing?
They would probably get the fast lane.
Then
but,
why are they
it
standing
would depend.
It doesn't affect existing companies. Existing companies like Netflix are entrenched. The real issue here is, how did Facebook come about? Well, there was Friendster and there were MySpace, right? In the new system, Facebook wouldn't have a chance. Facebook wouldn't have enough money to pay to get in the fast lane, so you would use one of the existing fast lane services. So it creates the internet of entrenched interests.
It sounds like a way to gel the internet, sort of the way it is today. Like, we don't need any new websites.
Exactly. No new websites, no new innovation. You have to ask permission first now, and we see this AOLification of the internet, where first they tried to have everything in little boxes and all neat and orderly, but that didn't work, right? Everyone on AOL went out to the real internet and they found real internet. They were like, this is great. But those people who like AOL, who like control, they're still with us, and they're part of Facebook now. And Facebook, a lot of people don't go outside of Facebook. There's no reason to. They can just stay in their little internet box there. But the real internet is where Uber and Lyft and Airbnb and all these new services are talking about, like tool sharing programs, piano sharing programs, any kind of new idea that you have, you can't compete now. The existing entrenched interests, like Netflix was a new idea. Streaming video was a new idea. Well, Netflix wouldn't be able to compete now. They would have to buy one of these fast lanes. So,
Yeah.
pretty bad.
Yeah, it sounds encouraging of using one's imagination. Supporters of that proposal, reading again from the article, supporters of the proposal argue that ISPs won't be able to degrade overall quality, but can experiment with new tiers of service and business models. To people taking part in the day of action, though, speeding some services up could automatically relegate other parts of the internet to a slow lane, where ISPs have less incentive to improve quality. And if the new net neutrality rules can't survive a legal challenge, as the last set couldn't, they could theoretically even degrade quality of service. Hence today's protest. If the web gets more data intensive but internet quality is no longer evenly distributed, the idea goes you could be seeing a lot more buffering. The widgets used by some of these sites come from Net Neutrality Coalition Battle for the Net. Some ask you to sign a petition or send an email, while others will let you enter your phone number and directly connect you with a representative from your district if you're in the U.S. The FCC is responsible for finalizing a net neutrality framework, but Congress can show support and potentially float legislation in support of the agency. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, a Democrat from California, for instance, has officially come out in favor of reclassifying broadband under common carrier rules. So no matter what you do, these banners will be popping up until midnight tonight when the day of action ends. You can learn more at theverge.com or Battle for the Net. I believe that's a .com. Yep, battleforthenet.com.
So another thing that internet service providers are going to try to do, it's not exactly the same. What they're going to try to do is they're going to try to limit your flat rate. So they're going to say, okay, you can get flat rate, but you only get up to this much flat rate, and after that, you're on the slow road then. So it's not exactly the same deal, but basically, a lot of the telecommunication companies are having issues monetizing, and people and they're trying to figure out how they can get in on this game too, of kind of limiting access, because we're all used to flat rate, and the guy that
What do you mean flat rate? What are you talking about?
Flat rate internet.
So
all used to
pay the same amount every month.
All you can use. All you can
use. Everyone is used to that. It's just like an all-you-can-eat buffet, but it's for the internet, right? And so if I want to download a whole movie, or if I want to download 100 movies, it'll be possible. I will still have the same bandwidth. But what the internet service providers are trying to do is they're trying to figure out a way to make it, okay, you downloaded about as much for 100 movies. Now you either have to pay more to keep that speed, or you have to you'll be in the slow lane. I mean, here they tried it. What's wrong with that? Well, good question. I think it's wrong.
It's limiting access to something that they didn't create. They didn't create any of this content. They shouldn't have the right to limit access to it. They are common carriers. They should carry the packets. If they can't carry the packets, we should nationalize them and crush them. We already paid them in the United States. I think it was around $1 billion to have faster internet access in the year 2000. This money was taken. This faster internet access was never given to us. America does not lead the world in internet access. I don't even think we're in the top 20. Speed, access, the right to access this network is the right to have a future. So
But how
it should
can
be
the U.S. make rules about the internet?
Well, that's part of what I wanted to talk about, because a friend of mine here, and you know, she's a libertarian. I don't want to call her out or anything, but the libertarian view is that the state should take their hands off the internet, right? Paige says here, so many smart people are so wrong about net neutrality, and it's effing frustrating. We need less state control, not more.
That's true.
And I would say, sure, we need less state control, but net neutrality is actually a law where the state keeps their hands off the network. We have this incredible network that we were very lucky that the military developed, and it was, you know, became the internet, and now we kind of have it. And so if we can get the government and especially the corporations to keep their hands off it, I'm in favor of those government regulations. I'm a government person, limited government perhaps, but it seems like letting them in after we've had all this incredible period of keeping them out, right? Did you like what's been happening the last 20 years? Then we should keep net neutrality. If you didn't like it, if you were a corporation and you haven't been able,
we have nothing to compare it against.
well, it's compared to every other period where we didn't have the internet.
Well,
It
you
feels
just said
like
yourself that the U.S., though having started the internet, is now lagging behind like 20 other countries.
we're lagging behind in access to it, but at least we aren't cutting it up and making more profit off it, which is what this is. It doesn't have to do with increasing services, having a new service. Like even Facebook's a new service.
So why should the FCC have control over anything that happens on
I'm
the
not sure that they do have control over it, but they have the ability to tell the companies to stay out of it, which is good enough for me.
So I think that the reason this is a little bit more complicated than just regulation or no regulation is who built all of the infrastructure. You know what I mean? It wasn't. I don't think that. I mean, that was funded by public taxes, I believe. A lot of it. You know, all the cables and all that stuff. What now?
There's a combination. There's a disagreement here because part of it is the internet backbone, which school to school, military base to military base was pretty much government funded. But then there's the to the home system, which is mainly using the old cable system, which was developed in the 80s and 90s, actually running physical wires, which the cable companies did, but they didn't exactly do that as an unsubsidized industry. There was controls over them then. There was this idea of the cable spreading information, that being a good thing. There was controls over them. They were subsidized, but they would claim that they own the lines to the home. And that's what this is really about. They're asking those lines to be unregulated. We're asking those lines to be regulated so they keep their hands off the packets. And if they get to put their hands in the packets, they make tons more money. And that's what this is about, money.
I don't want them to be regulated because whenever like banks are regulated, they have a bunch of rules that say, oh, you're not allowed to screw anyone over, and if you do bad things, the government's going to punish you. And everyone says, that's great, yeah, put them in control. And then what happens is they grow all big, they pay off the politicians who are supposed to regulate them, and then none of it works at all. So, I mean, I'd rather the FCC and the government not be involved, that bad players and bad actors who want to slow down your internet service, just go ahead and do that. People will be like, F this, I'm changing carriers. And then everybody wins.
Well, see, now this is where I think
that would be great, but I think that that's not realistic at this point because basically all the carriers
the no regulation all the time argument doesn't work all the time. No arguments work all the time. Net neutrality is a very specific piece of hands-off regulation, where normally you could be against regulation and I'd be fine with that. In this case, we have a hands-off regulation. We have regulation to keep
any other hands-off regulation that the government actually obeys?
They did obey it until they just changed it recently, but this is regulation to keep something unregulated.
The government never has to obey its own rules. You know that. So there's a rule that says we're restricted by these words on paper, and people 100 years from now are really going to care about that. No, they only are thinking about the next election cycle. They're not thinking far down the road. This is, I mean, let it be worked out in the market. If people want to be pissy,
well, that's the thing. We need the corporations out of this. If the corporations get control of this, it won't be a market. It won't be a free market. It will be controlled, as we've discussed. New companies will not be able to enter. Old companies, whether they like it or not, and that's one of the things that Netflix is doing, which is so laudable here. Netflix is arguing for their competitors. Netflix, all these other companies, they're saying something could come along that could be better. Maybe it's just going to be Facebook merged with Netflix, merged with Reddit, but something better could come along, and we're okay with that because technology creates something better. And this unregulated by regulation market, the unregulated nature of the true internet, the actual packets, is what we're trying to protect here. It's a computer science concept that was accepted into law and now needs to be enshrined and protected into law. And if you look at the two groups, if you don't think this should be a law, then you're with the corporations who think they should cut it up and they should profit more on something that they didn't build, something that they didn't encourage, something they were dragged along into. Remember all the alternatives for internet, web TV? They had the little buttons you could push. You could vote things up or down on TV, TV with voting systems, calling in the phone, what video do you want to see next? These are all failed systems that were not as good as the true interactive internet. The anything could happen internet. That's what we're going to lose if they cut this up and put it into little boxes and deny net neutrality.
I don't know. It seems like there are fast lanes. I don't get why having fast lanes would create slow lanes. Is it just by comparison, or is there?
Okay, imagine if Uber was on the fast lane and Lyft was on the slow lane. If you want an Uber ride, you can access it in 30 seconds. If you want a Lyft ride, you have to wait 2 minutes. Which service are you going to get?
They could also do. I mean,
That's
I don't.
not my question. My question is more technical. Does having a fast lane necessarily create a slow lane, like in physical space? Is there
the way the packets work is that the machine doesn't judge the packets right now. This is a lot like Bitcoin, where we talked about having colored coins or tainted coins, and that you'd have to put an extra level in every time you got a coin. You'd have to check, is it on these lists? Well, they're doing the same thing for these packets, except the list is shorter and it's the fast lane list. So when the packets come in, it has to say, am I going to send the next packet in order and operate fairly like a computer, or am I going to judge the packets? The new system judges the packets.
That's very interesting. According to whom?
It's net neutrality. It's just how it works. They would just prioritize some packets over others. That's the cable companies, the fast lane. Right now they're forced to run. The way the network works, if you want to be on the internet, you have to be like interoperable. You have to be like, I run software that sends.
Sounds like I want to try and imagine what it would look like without government interference, because I am an anarchist and I do want to keep the government out of things. I think it does result in the most good for most people. So what would happen if we left it to just the companies, assuming there are going to be bad actors, right? There are going to be people who do.
I think that at the beginning it would be really bad.
What's
and
that?
At the beginning it would be if it was just like today, for example, and they did what we're talking about.
Why would it be bad?
Why would it be bad? Well, because we're not ready. Because we're not ready. We haven't built any alternative systems. We haven't built any mesh networks. We're not ready. We're not prepared for that. That's what we need to do.
But when this happens, when they end net neutrality or whatever it's called, all I get is faster Netflix, right? That's what I see.
Yeah, well, that it's going to be harder for new companies to compete in the internet. So it's kind of a weird. It's a what now?
How do you know that it will be harder for new companies to compete?
Okay, well, I don't know. Nobody knows because we don't know exactly. But it would theoretically you'd have to buy a fast lane, and theoretically a fast lane you'd have to have more capital to buy a fast lane if it's how we're talking about. If it's a fast lane costs a lot of money for a company to have. Then if I'm a small startup, then I would have to somehow get a lot of, and right now the access is pretty easy to get. I'm not saying I'm...
an ISP that was small, like that wanted to compete with Time Warner and cable, and I'm Derek's ISP, and I say, I'm going to provide fast lane access for the startups, and I've got the cheaper service because I'm the small guy, and I'm limited to this one small area, but... there've got to be some ways that these businesses, like the ISPs and the domains, I guess, the websites themselves, would develop partnerships that say, like, hey, I trust you and your packets, so I'm going to let those go through the fast lane, And you don't have to pay an exorbitant fee. You can make it up to me in any number of other ways. You could advertise for this ISP on your website. You could, you can find negotiations. Instead of just saying, here's one regulatory authority, we're all going to be the same speed, one size fits all, why not open the market up to new solutions?
Well, you could do that now. I mean, you could go ahead and do that now, and you could say, maybe it would be a great company if someone's watching and they want to do it. You could say, okay, we're when we're going to offer this kind of service if the regulations change so that there is not net neutrality. We'll do it like this. We'll serve, like you said, small companies, and we'll make an agreement. I mean, you could do that now. You could just say, I'm an internet service provider, and this is what I'm going to offer if that happens. But what I'm not clear about the technical thing, if it's also about the backbone access, because the thing is, who has access to all of this infrastructure? And
remember, the first computer that you hit is your cable company or your provider's computer. So when you hit your cable company or provider's computer, they have a choice whether to give you over to the real internet or to hold you in their own internet. And what they're talking about is keeping you in their own network. Right. And if someone pays them, they'll let you have access to it.
Okay, so what would be a workaround? So what would be a workaround? I guess I could do mesh network or something like that to get around that I wouldn't. So let's say I live in the country and I only have one provider, but I don't want to do business with that provider because they support, I don't know what I don't like.
Torture about.
Right. What would be a way that I could get around that? I'm not sure. I guess I have to use a satellite service, or I don't know what the hell. I'm just trying to trying to figure out if there
Internet is an interoperable network. They want to create a non-interoperable network so that Comcast Internet would be different than Verizon Internet, and maybe Comcast Internet provides YouTube access for speed up for free, and Verizon adds NFL access. They want to create the internet into tiers and plans so they can charge for it.
Yes.
The current internet is just serve packets. It doesn't matter what you get.
Why shouldn't I be able to have that, Thomas? It sounds to me like that's illegal.
If you have that, it destroys the rest of the internet.
Why?
So,
why can't I have that say I don't want all of these websites? I'll pay.
That destroys the internet. That means we don't have a network anymore. Okay. If you start choosing which packets you allow, like let's say I don't like any color red, so there's no more red in my internet. So my servers are now blocking all red images, all mention of the word red. There is no red.
My choice?
Well, yeah, the corporation's choice. So all of the freedom, if a group comes along and they're like revolutionary and they're using red, they're completely blocked from my ISP.
Wait a minute, Thomas. Customers are going to want red. So customers.
Well, exactly. The internet's not about customers. The internet's not about countries. The internet's not about these corporations. The internet is about data and sending data around. And what this does is it turns that upside down. And it says the internet's not about data anymore. The internet's about customers. And customers want access to YouTube, Disney Channel, 5 other sources of information which we're willing to grant them. No, the internet is a revolutionary machine that has a chance to save us, and this converts it into a cable system.
I think that we can right now, there's an easy way to kind of, you'd have to define what internet access is, and if you say internet access is how Thomas is describing, where all packets are accepted, and that's called internet access. So for example, I was visiting the States, and because I don't really watch TV here, and I was visiting, and they had big TV and the whole system, and I think they had something called Xfinity or something. Anyway, they said, yeah, it's all cloud-based. It's not anything here, and they said normally it's really good, except sometimes it lags. Okay, well that's not really internet per se, but it's in a cloud, and it's limited. I mean, they had hundreds of channels. I mean, I couldn't even figure out what the hell to watch because there's so much stuff to choose from. But you had, and if you wanted to watch like NFL, you had to pay. If you wanted to buy
Oh no, lost you for a second. But it sounds like it provided the option
It
to.
says all this is on demand, but it's located on a server somewhere. So it's like a private internet in a way. You see what I mean? And so you can do that now. So the other road is that what you would call internet access, or we could name it freeway, or I don't know what the hell we could call it, is what Thomas is describing. And I think that if I understand correctly, that under the new system it would be, I don't know if one company could, would it have to be that all companies offer fast lanes and slow lanes, and some can offer the normal internet, or would all have to offer fast and slow lanes?
The current rules of net neutrality keep the ISPs from doing this. Remember, this is about the ISP access. If you went to a
There are
university,
currently rules preventing businesses from providing customers with what they might want.
it's not what they want. The customers don't know what they want. The rules are against them screwing up
If
the
the
internet.
customers don't want it, they won't pay for it. And if they do want it, they will pay for
Well,
it.
the customers
Yeah.
don't want the internet to carry our content, but it does carry our content. The customers don't get to decide. The internet is full of racist, sexist.
Customers want YouTube. We're on YouTube. We've got a
Well, that's the thing. We're on a protected service, but again,
caller. You, unlike businesses, are unrestricted from entering this conversation. Go ahead.
Hey, Derek J. and gents. Really enjoying the conversation here on net neutrality. I think one key item that you guys weren't touching upon is the fact that open up competition, I think, is a good thing. If you look at a lot of areas in the country where there's key internet infrastructure, there's only one provider. A lot of people only have a choice of AT&T or Verizon, and they don't have much competition. If you look at areas where Google Fiber's gone in, a lot of those other incumbents have had to scramble to match the level of service that Google's provided. I think the biggest challenge is if you, like you say, it's kind of touching upon all the key points you guys are bringing up. Open up competition, and it will clarify everything. It will resolve a lot of these issues because the strongest and the best provider will win.
How many ISPs do you have to choose from, caller?
I live in Texas, so I'm lucky. In my neighborhood, it's a brand new neighborhood, and we have AT&T Uverse, and we have Xfinity. So we have a choice. But coming from Massachusetts, I only had one choice. It was, I believe, it was Time Warner. So it was either, love them or leave them. There was no other choice. It was whatever they decided to offer, and take it or leave it. So down here in Texas, it's pretty nice to have that choice. We're always getting things in the mail from Xfinity and for AT&T and saying, hey, come to us. We'll offer this better service. And they're always trying to leapfrog each other.
Well, Thomas was trying to tell us that customers don't know what they want. So how did you choose what ISP you wanted?
Well, a lot of it, I come from a technology background. So I look at it from a technology aspect, where Uverse is fiber. It's fiber to the home. And it's a dedicated line, where Xfinity is a shared broadband access. So if you go with the cable, you're kind of sharing it with everyone in your neighborhood. Uverse kind of gives you a dedicated line to the internet and a little bit greater speeds. So that's what helped me choose.
All right.
And again, all of these services are giving you access to the real internet. They're not giving you access to the AOL internet, but what they're going to do is they're going to change it so that you'd have access to, your 5 websites or whatever they are, and maybe you could buy a better package. Here's an example of what the packages might be. You could have a package that includes CNN, a package that includes Google, but if you want to search Baidu or an international source, you're going to have to pay an extra $5 if you want that to be fast. This is just about money. They're taking away.
I don't use any of those websites, so if I want cheaper internet,
any website that's not listed on this list is slow.
That's
get used to it, man. Get used to it. Anything.
I was paying almost $90 a month in Philadelphia for my.
It's not going to make the prices go down. It's not going to affect the prices.
Let's talk about this for a second, though. And I was getting all the internet at full speed, right? Well, what if I had the option to pay $30, as the price was listed there, for most of the internet that I use, plus $5 for the other stuff? Let's
It's
say
not
I had
customized to use.
because
But I
I've
think
got a couple other weird websites I want to use, and now I'm paying $40 a month for fast internet. I don't get the other websites to be fast, but I'm saving 50% every month.
I think I see the point. I mean, theoretically, that's what would happen is that after some time, there would be a solution because not everyone, a whole hell of a lot of people are going to want the so-called real internet because that's what they're used to, and a very small amount of people are going to want to only be on CNN, Fox, or whatever other websites. I mean, I didn't do market research, so I can't say for sure. I just think that if it were to happen in 6 months, where they have the fast road and the slow road, let's say,
A lot
that would
of
be
them
a
don't
really
have a choice.
dramatic. That would be really dramatic for the internet as we know it and access as we know it. I mean, maybe that would just force people to figure out how to deal with it really quickly. I think so because everybody, and I think a lot of people. I think it's a good discussion because we talk about what the internet really is. That's what we're trying to figure out.
Well, I'm just so offended that
and-
Thomas wants to restrict businesses from offering something.
Yeah.
Like, why?
But
why
the
We
thing
have
is,
one,
the
we have
businesses.
one good thing we've made, the internet. We should keep them away from that good thing.
Why can't so okay, we have
What
cars.
other?
Why can't
what's
we
the-
have cars that fly? So I want cars that fly. I want to offer something new.
Can't
You're
use
like,
another
no,
example.
we can't have something
We
new.
have to talk about the network. We have to talk about the packets, and we have to talk about access. What
Okay,
about Free Talk Live?
We've got a roadway.
Not on these lists.
I want to make a new
Talk
road. and
Live,
you're like,
slow
no.
lane.
Look.
Slow lane forever. How is Free Talk Live going to compete with, let's say Fox News comes up with their own libertarian type channel? Well, they're going to pay for the fast lane. So if I want to watch a video about like libertarian type news, I'm going to go to Fox News' offering because it's fast lane instead of Free Talk Live where it buffers and it buffers and it buffers. And you're going to have no choice. If you were in Massachusetts, you could only get this AOL internet that they're selling now. You'd have no choice. You'd probably end up watching the Fox News libertarian thing instead of the independent thing. The independent thing runs out of viewers, runs out of attention. The whole thing's gone. The whole open, like, we're on the internet. We're just as good as any other show, right? That's only because of net neutrality. This is a specific technology that works with a specific internet that people have built for us that have worked really good and continues to work good. Where's the harm? Where's the harm that they're solving in the current system?
Well, where's the harm in offering something new?
It's not offering, it's about retracting. It's about retracting the ability of any packet to go where any packet's trying to go.
I mean, the company's I think that who is going to buy those packages? I mean, they're just so retarded.
I have no choice. No choice.
I would.
No, it's their no. Well, yeah, but I think
proposing no competition. He's talking about places like Massachusetts where there was one ISP, like the caller shared with us, and that would be horrible if this new system were instituted and there were no competition. I agree with you. That would be a nightmare because
that's what
What
I'm
if they
saying.
did this to the library? You couldn't look up information anymore. You can't Google search anymore. You can't go to the library. This is what they're doing. They're closing down the library.
Right. There would be one company that gets to decide what users get to see on the internet, and that would be a real.
And what if there was bad information about that company? What if they poisoned water wells? You think they're going to have that on their fast internet? You think some website that comes along and tells us that
Okay, but what I'm presupposing is that there would be competition. I'm sorry, but I had to mute Thomas for a second. You can unmute yourself because I can't unmute you.
Too much power.
I think that yeah, there would. I totally agree. I mean, there would be competition, and there would eventually be a solution to it, because I'm totally sure that enough people want the real internet, and there would be a free market solution too. It's just that if it happened, like I said,
So
like
it
in 1
sets us
month,
back.
it would
It
be.
sets the whole cause back like 20 to 30 years. We waste 20, 30 years fighting this out in the streets, trying to
I
get
don't
the
know
internet
about
back
20
to where it was.
I
The
don't know
internet's
about 20
great
or
where it
30
is right
years.
now. It's great where it is right now.
Caller, do you have any other thoughts you want to add?
Hey guys, thanks for bringing me back into this. It's kind of funny here listening to you guys rapid fire back and forth. Tough to get a word in edgewise, especially when I see your faces flashing in front of me. So hey, I appreciate you kind of giving me one last thought here, but I guess to kind of sum it up, I see validity in a lot of your arguments, but I think the key is to just open it up across the nation to major competition. If you remember back in the 90s, 94, 95, you had all the dial-up internet access providers like Net Zero and all those guys. You know, you had a lot of choice, and they all kind of, you know, brought the technology to the masses and made it a better experience for everyone. I think the challenge here is that there's a lot of monopolies in a lot of areas where people don't have choice, and that's going to be a real challenge if these are put in place where, like Thomas had mentioned, you know, you get your little fiefdom and they kind of garden wall it off, and we're going to have a lot of AOLs across the country, and it's going to be, I think, dysfunctional. So, hey guys, I'll hang up. I'll listen to the rest of the conversation, and appreciate you giving me some airtime here.
Cool. I appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts. Thank you very much. Call in anytime. And if you want to Skype us, you can do that at BitcoinTalkShow or tweet at BTC Talk. We've also got some comments in the Q&A.
Skype is a program that's only around because of net neutrality. Don't forget that.
No. Okay, let's listen to what the question. We've been talking a lot. But before I forget, after the questions, we can talk about what that would mean for Bitcoin, because we depend on the internet for the transactions. And what if the transactions on all the servers were automatically put in the slow lane?
That's a serious concern. Chad Crypto in the Q&A says, sounds like net communism or fascism.
Typical libertarians with their inflexible ideology. If we have a little bit of flexibility, we can have an open internet. We can use it to discuss all of your other ideas. Just that little bit of flexibility there.
We use just a little bit of government violence to prevent companies from doing what they want.
I'm just laughing because it's just always these. I mean, yeah, it's an okay discussion. I just try. I guess I don't know if I'm old. I mean, when I was younger, I did it a lot. I just try not to like throw around words like you're a communist, you're a fascist. I just really try to avoid all that and just have a discussion, because it just doesn't. It's also loaded. I mean, I understand what he means. It's state control. I agree, basically. I agree with that it is state control. I'm just saying, I don't know. They're just such loaded words, and we have to.
Yeah, the problem is people throwing around the word fascist like asshole. You know, it actually has a meaning, and it's.
Well, I mean, I get his point of view, and I'm not pissed that he said fascist or anything like that. It's just.
No, but
it just makes me laugh sometimes.
It'll be fascist after they push this through. After they get this through, and all of you anti-regulation fools give up the internet, and then the internet's gone, and you go out and try to talk to me, and you can't talk to me anymore. You can't talk to me anymore because there's no more internet.
I'll send you a smoke signal.
Yeah, send me a letter in the mail.
We got to develop telepathy more. You know, we've got to focus our brain waves on using these cameras to develop this collective consciousness thing. I mean, we've got the power right now, and we'll be able to do it. We don't need this internet service providers then. Okay, let's go on to the next.
Sure. Well, just one small correction before we move on, that if the definition of fascism is the merger of state and corporate powers, then we're currently already under fascism. So I
can agree with that.
And the internet's the only place we don't have it, and you guys are so blind to your hatred of regulation that you're going to let them regulate the internet out of existence, so we won't be able to have this discussion anymore. Really, guys, really. There's a real world here. I know that you read your books, but there's a real world. It's real. It's real.
Discussion. I'm sure this will not be the end of it, even past this episode. Chad Crypto also writes, this whole slowdown of the net is weird. When companies like CenturyLink are talking about putting 1.5 gig a second speeds, even Comcast is talking about how fast their service is. Weird that they would slow it down. I don't know what he really means by that. It sounds like what they're offering was something faster. Wasn't it that they would accept packets faster?
It's basically like
real money comes from blackmailing the other companies, getting them to give you money. Here's a great website called theopeninter.net, and it says, what is net neutrality? Scroll down to find out. You have this big ISP, and look, you have all these things: YouTube, email, Skype, Facebook, gaming, and they all just go through these pipes, right? You see these big little controls? That's what the thing wants. ISPs provide you access. You can use it as much as you want for anything you want. And it goes down here, and look, it comes to your house. What ISPs want? There's the IPS go. Look, Amazing package sale. You can access Netflix and Hulu for $30. You could access email, Facebook,
Wow,
and
look
Skype
at all
for
the
$10 a month.
choices. Look at the variety. It's so
Exactly.
scary and horrible. Choices are bad.
Why is this important? A free and open internet is the single greatest technology of our time, and control should not be at the mercy of corporations. A free and open internet stimulates competition. A free and open internet helps prevent unfair.
Man, that's like saying we all must have white bread. We can't have wheat bread and pumpernickel
Look,
and
I
all
think
the
that
kinds of bread.
look, we're not going to get around the fact that we're going to have to change the internet. So we're going to have to change how it is right now. With if you're like more on the Thomas, agree with what he's saying, or you agree more with, no regulation, we're going to have to, and I think we're going to have to take some of this into our own hands, figure out how to build some kind of alternative internet that don't depend on these ISPs, because either one, the government will regulate it, or the company will get in bed with the government and will get screwed like that. So one way or another. And I think that we're going to have to figure out, ways around that somehow. Maybe we need to launch some satellites into space, or I don't know, whatever is going to help us to have our own internet that we don't have to depend on a single ISP, for example.
So Chad Crypto writes, I don't want them to control my net. I don't like this fast lane thing. And he also says, I think I'm understanding this now. So they will slow down certain sites unless they pay more to run faster. I see now. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty soon.
Blackmail Netflix. Blackmail Netflix.
We're coming up on 5 p.m. here on the East Coast, which means we've got to start wrapping things up. Theo, you have Sound Wallet, but you also do some other stuff. You want to pimp that?
Should I pimp it? Okay, so yeah, I do Sound Wallet. That's cool. Soundwallet.net. So if you want, I can make you a cold storage wallet in the form of a record or a CD, and you can check that out at soundwallet.net. Yeah, so basically, it's the ultimate long-term cold storage, because if your private key is on a record, that's going to last a lot longer than any USB stick, any hard drive, any laptop, any Raspberry Pi's flash media card. It probably won't last longer than a big slab of metal with your private key etched into it. However, not only do you get this cool record, it's also disguised, because a record doesn't look like a private key. So if I was an evil person, I wanted to steal your bitcoins, and I knew that you were into bitcoins, then I would probably check your computer, your USB drives, anything having to do with computers. And if I saw a big slab of metal and it had this really weird numbers in it, I would probably take that too. But I probably wouldn't go through your record collection. I mean, maybe now you will, because I'm making these things for people. But it's a little less obvious. So it's basically another level of safety through being more obscure. That's it.
Sounds very cool. Soundwallet.net.
Yeah.
And Thomas, of course, you know him from Mad Bitcoins. He does 1,000,001 things for the World Crypto Network, worldcryptonetwork.com, at Mad Bitcoins. What else you got?
People need to be more flexible. Allow some regulation. Be flexible.
Allow
Nothing
some
is black and white. Nothing is black and white. You guys are so free status. But then again, who's going to build your roads? Come on.
Who's going to build the roads? You said it.
I love saying it.
Why do you like saying? I think people would.
None of them would help to build the road. They won't even pick up litter. I was there. They won't pick up their own trash.
Okay, so who would build the roads? The same. Who builds the roads now?
No one. There would be no roads. There'd be no.
Wait. Who builds the roads now?
We'd go back to the Dark Ages.
Who builds
the king of our own little castle.
Question.
We'll have to save this discussion for another day.
Who builds the roads now?
Government. People working
No,
together.
the government doesn't build the roads.
Communism built
Private
the roads.
corporations build
Socialism
the
built the
roads.
roads.
And
It's
the
flexible.
government pays
Different
private
spectrums.
corporations to build the roads.
Boys, we all agree that Bitcoin is the way of the free future. We will build that free future together. We don't agree on everything. We agree on peace and freedom. That does it for this episode of Bitcoin Talk Show. We'll be back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Looking forward to chatting with you, the listener. In the meantime, BitcoinTalkShow.com. I'm Derek J. You can learn about me at my website, derekj.me. I produce daily content like this show, but all variety of different manner. So call in, get interactive. Peace.